I'm standing at the altar in a $7,000 wedding dress, and I can feel my heart doing this thing where it's beating so hard I think everyone can see it through the fabric. The officiant is looking at me with this confused expression because I just raised my hand. At my own wedding. During the part where you're supposed to say I do, I'm saying I have something to say instead. The crowd is completely silent, like the kind of silent where you can hear someone's phone vibrate in their purse 3 rows back. Damien, my groom, supposedly the love of my life, the man I'm about to legally bind myself to for eternity, he's looking at me like I've suddenly started speaking in a language he doesn't understand. His jaw is tight. His hand is still reaching toward mine, but now it's frozen in midair, and I can see it happening in his face. He's trying to figure out if this is some kind of game, some kind of wedding day prank, or if his entire world is about to collapse in front of 200 of the most powerful people in California. It's about to. And honestly, I kind of enjoy the look on his face. But here's the thing, you're probably wondering what could possibly make a bride in this dress in front of her entire family in front of the press decide to blow up her own wedding. And before I tell you that, I need to take you back, not to the beginning of the wedding day, closer than that, closer to the moment everything changed. It's about 38 minutes before the ceremony, and I'm in this anteroom next to Damien's study. Just me alone trying to find a moment of calm before everything starts. The whole day has been this whirlwind of hair and makeup and my mother asking if I'm nervous, which obviously I am. That's normal, right? You're supposed to be nervous before you get married. You're supposed to feel like your heart is too big for your chest. I can hear Damien's voice through the wall. Low, soft, I think he's practicing his vows, that's what I think at first. That's what makes sense. Why else would he be speaking so quietly, so carefully, like he's choosing every single word? But then I hear him say a name. Cassandra. And something in my stomach just drops. He's on the phone. He's on the phone 38 minutes before his wedding, speaking to another woman in a voice I've never heard him use with me. Not tender, not like that, not like she's the only thing that matters in the world. I step closer to the wall. I can't make out everything he's saying, but I catch fragments. After the Melbourne deal closes, once the proxy is secured, 2 years, that's the timeline. And then the thing that makes my blood actually go cold, Cassandra, you're the only real thing in this. The only real thing, in this, not in her life, in this, as in this situation, in this scheme. Because that's when I understand, and it hits me like a physical thing, that he's not practicing vows. He's planning something with her, and it involves me, but not in the way I thought. I'm listening to him describe the next 2 years of my life like it's a business transaction, because that's what it is to him. I'm not a wife he's marrying, I'm an acquisition. My family's company, Castellane Communications, is the target. The prenuptial agreement he insisted we sign as a gesture of trust. That's not protecting me. That's the mechanism. That's the lock that gives him access to the one thing he actually wants. And I'm the key. My hand is pressed against the wall, and I can feel my pulse in my fingertips. I'm trying to breathe normally, but my breathing doesn't feel normal anymore. Nothing feels normal. He's still talking on the other side of that wall. Still speaking to Cassandra about how I'm going to be taken care of, with a generous settlement once he divorces me. Once he extracts what he needs from my family and disappears with her. The white peonies in the anteroom suddenly smell suffocating instead of beautiful. That's the weird thing about betrayal, it changes the smell of flowers. It changes the light. It changes everything all at once and you can't change it back. Margaret finds me 5 minutes later, and I must look like I've seen a ghost because her whole expression shifts from excitement to concern in about half a second. What happened, she asks, what's wrong? And I tell her, calmly, strategically, I don't cry, I don't scream. I just tell her what I heard, and with each sentence I watch her face change. First she doesn't believe me. Then she does. Then she's angry in a way I've never seen before, protective, fierce, like she's already decided she's going to burn down the entire Harrison family if it means protecting me. We call this off, she says immediately. Right now I'll tell them you're sick, we're done here. But I shake my head, and I can hear myself saying something that surprises us both. No, I'm not going to be the victim bride who ran, I'm going to expose him, in front of everyone. Margaret stares at me like I've just suggested we rob a bank. You're serious, she says. Completely. And she sits down and she takes my hand, and she says the thing that makes me understand she's already with me. Okay, what do we do? The next 20 minutes are a blur of strategy. We can't tell my father yet. He'll shut this down, he'll try to protect me by making it quiet, by handling it legally and quietly, and I need this to be public. I need the world to see what Damien tried to do, but we need proof. We need something irrefutable. The recorded call. Margaret figures it out before I even have to say it. Damien's laptop is probably in his study, the same study where he just got off the phone with Cassandra. And if he's anything like every other tech-obsessed venture capitalist, he probably has some kind of call recording app synced to the cloud. We need that recording. I'll get it, Margaret says. I just need a distraction. She walks out of the anteroom like she's got ice in her veins. I wait maybe 2 minutes and then I find my father in the hallway. I pull him into a quiet corner and I look him in the eye and I tell him, Dad, Damien isn't who you think he is. None of this is what it seems. My father is not a man who panics. He's CEO of Castellane Communications. He spent 30 years in boardrooms with people trying to screw him over. He hears this, and his expression shifts from proud father to cold strategist in about 3 seconds flat. I explain it to him in business terms because I know that's the language he speaks. The proxy control, the marriage as mechanism, the prenup as trap, how Damien's been planning this since before he even met me. My father listens and then he asks 3 questions. How much of the company? What timeline? Do we have proof? When I answer, I can see him calculating. And then he says something that's actually more terrifying than anything Damien said. By the time we're done, that man won't have a company, a reputation, or a future. He's not angry in a way that shows. That's the thing about my father, his anger is cold. It's strategic, it's the kind of anger that ends empires. He's already pulling out his phone, calling lawyers, calling board members, setting in motion something that cannot be stopped. Margaret returns, breathless, holding a USB drive like it's made of gold. Because to us, right now, it is. We listen to 30 seconds of it. Damien's voice is unmistakable, tender, incriminating, planning a future that doesn't include me. The bridal march starts to play. My father squeezes my shoulder. You're a Castellane, act like it. Walking down the aisle is the strangest feeling. Everyone sees a radiant bride. They see a woman in love about to marry the man of her dreams. They see tradition and beauty and a moment that's supposed to be the best day of my life. What they don't see is the woman inside this dress who just learned that every kind word, every moment, every promise was a performance. What they don't see is me calculating the exact moment I'm going to detonate. Damien sees me and his face lights up, and for just a second, like a fraction of a second, I almost feel bad, almost, but then I remember Cassandra. I remember 2 years, then divorce. I remember being reduced to a line item in a business plan. The moment passes. The officiant is doing his thing. Readings, vows, and the whole time Damien is looking at me with this expression of absolute certainty. Like he's already won. Like he's already inside the castle walls. Like there's nothing that can stop him now. And then the officiant says the words everyone's been waiting for. If anyone here has cause to object to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace. I raise my hand. The crowd makes this sound, not a gasp exactly, more like a collective intake of breath. Like the entire room just realized something went very, very wrong. Damien's expression changes. The certainty drains out of it. I walk to the microphone. I have something everyone needs to hear, I say, and my voice is steady. It's controlled. It's the voice of someone who has moved beyond heartbreak into something harder. I tell them everything, the overheard conversation, Cassandra Vale's name, the proxy scheme, the prenup designed as a trap, the planned divorce after 2 years. I describe how the man they're all looking at orchestrated every moment of our relationship as a business acquisition. How he called the woman he actually loves his only real thing. I'm the fake thing, I'm the mechanism. Damien stands up, he's trying to spin it. Iris is emotional, this is pre-wedding jitters, she's confused. And I cut him off. Margaret, play it. The recording fills the venue, his voice, his words. Once the Castellane proxy is secured, we move to phase 2. 2 years, then divorce, and Iris gets a generous settlement. Cassandra, you're the only real thing in this. His own voice condemns him. There's no argument against your own voice, there's no spinning that. I watch his face go white. I watch Elena, his mother, realize the scope of what's happening. I watch board members and business partners and investors start to understand that they've been doing business with a fraud. I'm still holding the USB drive. I hold it up so everyone can see it. This is evidence of conspiracy, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty, I say. I'm giving it to the police. And then I do something I've been waiting for since the moment I heard the word Cassandra. I reach down and I remove the 7-carat diamond from my left hand. I've been wearing it for months. It felt like love. Turns out it was just a very expensive lock. I place it carefully on the altar step. It makes a sound when it settles, clear, final. This ring was beautiful, I say. It was also a lie, just like everything you promised. My father steps forward. He's not asking permission. He's moving like a man who just executed a business decision that's been calculated for 20 minutes. I'm Vincent Castellane, CEO of Castellane Communications, he says into the microphone. Effective immediately, my company severs all business relationships with Ashford Ventures and any of its subsidiaries. All pending contracts are suspended pending legal review. He pauses, the room is completely silent. We are pursuing criminal fraud charges, federal charges, related to conspiracy, proxy manipulation, and breach of fiduciary duty. Criminal, federal, those are the words that make Damien's attorney, who apparently came as a guest, start whispering urgently to him. Those are the words that make Elena's carefully maintained composure crack, because she understands now that this isn't about business anymore. This is about her son potentially going to prison. Come with me, daughter, my father says, and I take his arm, and Margaret falls into step beside us, and we walk back down the aisle. The same aisle I walked down 5 minutes ago as a bride. I'm not a bride anymore. The cameras are flashing. The guests are on their feet. Some people are applauding. Some people are on their phones already calling their lawyers and their investors to distance themselves from Ashford Ventures. As we reach the doors, I can see Damien still standing at the altar. Alone, with my diamond ring gleaming on the step beside him, like a monument to his own failure. The next 48 hours are actually kind of a blur, but let me try to paint the picture of what happens when you blow up someone's entire life on livestream because, yeah, there were cameras. There were press. This goes viral almost immediately. Day 1, Ashford Ventures stock price drops 40%. Major investors are pulling out. The board is meeting in emergency session. Damien's social media is being flooded with messages from business partners calling him a fraud. News outlets are running headlines like, Venture Capitalists' Wedding Day Fraud Exposed, and Bride Exposes Elaborate Corporate Con at Altar. Day 2, Damien's arrested. I know that because I see his mugshot on the news and he looks exactly how I'd expect someone to look who just understood that their entire empire took about 5 minutes to collapse. Federal charges, fraud, conspiracy, the serious kind, the prison kind. And then this is the part that actually surprised me. Cassandra cooperates with prosecutors. Because she realizes right around the same time everyone else does that she's also been used. She thought she was a partner. Turns out she was a tool. And tools don't usually end well when they're tools. She flips, she agrees to testify. She becomes the federal prosecutor's best witness against the man she thought loved her. I don't feel triumph watching all of this, I thought I would. I thought I'd feel satisfied, vindicated, powerful, and I do feel powerful, but the triumph part, it doesn't come. Because the thing about exposing a lie is that it doesn't undo the lie. It doesn't give you back the time you wasted believing it. It doesn't give you back the version of him that you loved because that version never existed. So yeah, he's destroyed. His company is gone. His reputation is ashes, but the person I loved is still gone too because he was never real to begin with. That evening my father drives us to a private villa overlooking Napa Valley. It's beautiful, all clean lines and glass and a view of vineyards that go on forever. And the moment we're inside and the door is closed, something in me just breaks. I'm still wearing the wedding dress, my makeup is still perfect, my hair is still perfect, and I can't breathe, not really. It feels like there's something heavy on my chest and that something is the weight of grief. Margaret helps me out of the dress, that beautiful, terrible dress, and I collapse onto the bed and I actually cry. Not the composed, controlled crying of someone executing a plan, the real thing, the ugly, broken, can't catch your breath thing. My father sits nearby. Margaret holds my hand, neither of them tries to fix it. They just sit with me while I mourn the man I thought he was, the future I thought I had, the version of myself that believed in fairy tales. He was never real, I say at one point. Everything was a performance. And Margaret says something I needed to hear. Your love was real, your trust was real. The only fake thing here was him. That says nothing about you. My father adds, you are a Castellane and you are loved, that's what's real. And that's the thing that eventually lets me breathe again. Not the revenge, not the exposure, not watching his world burn, it's this. The people who actually love me, who stood with me, who held me when I broke. 1 week later, I'm in my father's office at Castellane Communications. I'm no longer wearing white. I'm wearing a sharp black suit that feels like armor. On his desk, legal documents showing that Ashford Ventures filed for bankruptcy protection. News alerts about Damien's indictment. Court filings showing Cassandra's plea agreement. Evidence that the entire scheme has collapsed under the weight of its own fraudulence. The Ashford name is finished, my father says, not because of revenge, because of truth. And I understand something in that moment that I didn't understand before. The power wasn't in the explosion. The power was in the truth. The power was in refusing to be a victim. The power was in standing up and speaking. Margaret arrives with champagne and we toast, not to Damien's downfall but to resilience, to clarity, to never accepting less than you deserve, to understanding your own worth independent of who loves you. My father raises his glass, to the woman who didn't marry. And I raise mine back, to the people who saved me when I broke. We drink and the sun is setting over the vineyards, and the view is exactly the same as it was when I arrived, but I'm different. I'm not the bride anymore. I'm not the victim. I'm the woman who chose to speak the truth, and everything else followed from that choice. I came down that aisle expecting a beginning. Instead, I found an ending, and from it an actual start. You know what's insane? About 80% of people watching this right now aren't subscribed. 80%. And honestly, I don't get it, because stories like this, real stories about real people making impossible choices, these are the stories that matter. These are the stories that remind you that you're stronger than the situations trying to break you. So please, if this story landed for you, if you're sitting here understanding what it means to be betrayed, and then choosing to be powerful anyway, subscribe. It really does help the channel, and it means I get to keep bringing you stories like this one. Thank you. The thing I didn't expect about all of this is how quiet the aftermath is. Damien's gone. His company's gone. Cassandra's testifying against him. The headline fades from the news cycle. Everyone moves on to the next scandal, the next disaster, the next viral moment. But I'm still here, still processing, still understanding. People ask me sometimes if I regret marrying him. And the answer is no, but not for the reason you'd think. I regret that I trusted someone who didn't deserve trust. I regret that I loved someone who didn't love me back. But I don't regret the choice I made at the altar, because that choice taught me something I needed to know. It taught me that I can survive betrayal. That I can look at the worst thing someone's done to me and decide what I'm going to do about it. That my worth doesn't live in anyone else's hands. That speaking the truth, even when it destroys everything, is more powerful than any lie could ever be. Damien tried to acquire me like I was a company. He tried to reduce me to a line item in a business plan. But I turned out to be a person who could not be acquired. I turned out to be a person who could burn down an entire empire with nothing but the truth. And sometimes I think about him in federal prison and I don't feel anger. I don't feel triumph. I just feel grateful that I'm not him. Grateful that I don't have to live in a world where love is a transaction and people are assets. Grateful that the only thing he was able to take from me was time, and I'm taking my time back. Cassandra cooperates with prosecutors and her testimony is devastating. She describes how Damien promised her they'd build something together after the Castellane acquisition. How he used her trust exactly like he used mine. How she realized, sitting in a federal prosecutor's office, that she'd been as much of a pawn as I was. The trial takes 6 months. Damien is convicted on all counts. Federal prison. Real prison, not some white-collar club. The kind of prison where venture capitalist doesn't protect you and the only currency is respect, and he doesn't have any. I watch the news coverage of his sentencing, and I don't feel anything except relief. Relief that he's not in the world I'm trying to build. Relief that he can't hurt anyone else the way he hurt us. My father rebuilds Castellane Communications stronger than before. He diversifies. He invests in new technology. He brings in women to executive positions, not because he's trying to make some statement, but because he's learned that the world is better when you're not blind to half of it. Margaret becomes my business partner. After the wedding, after everything, I realized I wanted to do something real, something that mattered. We start a non-profit focused on financial literacy and corporate ethics. Because the thing about fraud is it thrives in secrecy. It dies in transparency. And me, I'm okay, not perfect, not over it. But okay, I understand that love is supposed to be a choice you make every day, not a transaction someone makes once. I understand that trust is a gift that can be taken away, and that doesn't make it a bad gift. It just means I have to be careful who I give it to. I date sometimes, tentatively, with people who understand that I spent 2 months planning a wedding to a man who didn't exist and that's left some scars. Real ones, the kind that don't show but that you feel. But mostly, I work, I build, I live, I speak truth even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. Because that's what I learned standing at that altar with a microphone in my hand and my entire life about to change. I learned that the most powerful thing you can do is speak the truth. Not for revenge, not for vindication. Just for the simple, radical act of being honest about what happened. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe. There are so many more like this one. Stories about real people making impossible choices, about truth winning out over lies, about women and men who refused to accept the version of themselves that someone else tried to write for them. I'd love for you to be part of this community. So subscribe if you haven't already. People ask me if I ever see Damien. The answer is no, but I've thought about it. I've imagined sitting across from him in a prison visiting room and I don't know what I'd say, maybe nothing. Maybe I'd just want him to understand that the thing he tried to take from me, my power, my voice, my sense of myself, none of it ever actually left. He just didn't know that yet. Or maybe I wouldn't say anything at all. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the most powerful response to someone who tried to write your story is to write it yourself, to tell it yourself, to own it completely. The white peonies from my wedding, I had them preserved, which I know sounds strange, but I did. And they sit in my office and they're beautiful and they're dead, and that seems right somehow. Beautiful and dead, that's what Damien was. Beautiful and dead, perfect on the surface, hollow inside. And I'm alive, that's the thing, I'm alive, and he's not in the way that matters. He's not building anything, he's not loving anyone, he's not moving forward, and I am. Some days when I'm tired I think about the bride I was. The girl in the $7,000 dress who thought she was marrying the love of her life. And I feel something for her. Compassion maybe, or maybe just recognition. She did her best with the information she had. But I'm not her anymore. I'm the woman who walked out of a wedding and walked into her own life. I'm the woman who chose truth over comfort, exposure over protection, power over comfort. And that woman, she's just getting started. I know this story sounds insane. It probably reads like fiction because it's so perfectly terrible, so perfectly designed to enrage you on behalf of someone you've never met. But here's the thing, there are thousands of stories like this one. Thousands of people who have trusted someone who didn't deserve trust. Thousands of people who have discovered that the person they loved was a performance, a mechanism, a con. The difference is usually that those people don't get the happy ending. They don't get to expose the fraud at the altar. They don't get to watch the perpetrator face consequences. They don't get to stand up and speak the truth and watch the entire world nod and say, yes, you're right, what he did was wrong. Most people just get to carry it, silently, alone. And I think about that sometimes, and it makes me think that maybe, just maybe, my story isn't about Damien at all. It's not really about fraud or betrayal or corporate conspiracy. It's about what happens when you decide you're not going to carry it silently anymore. It's about what happens when you stop protecting someone who hurt you. It's about what happens when you choose your own voice over someone else's comfort. It's about power, real power, the kind that doesn't come from money or position or even truth, it comes from the decision to tell the truth. So if you're sitting here watching this and there's something in your life that you've been carrying silently, something someone did to you that you've been protecting them for, I want you to know something. You don't have to protect them anymore. You don't have to be quiet. You don't have to be the villain in someone else's story about themselves. You get to be the hero in your own. That's what I learned at the altar. That's what I'm still learning now. And that's what I hope you take from this story, not satisfaction that Damien got what he deserved, though he did, but understanding that you deserve better. That you deserve truth. That you deserve to be loved by people who don't need to hide, who don't need to scheme, who don't need to reduce you to a business transaction. You deserve that, all of it. And if someone's offering you less, you get to say no, you get to walk away, you get to blow it all up and tell the truth. You get to be powerful. And that's maybe the most important thing I learned from all of this, not from Damien's betrayal, but from what I did with it. From the choice I made to speak instead of hide. From the decision to own my own story instead of letting someone else write it for me. I came down an aisle expecting a beginning, instead I found an ending, and from it an actual start. And that start, that's just the beginning. Thank you for watching this all the way to the end. If you want more stories like this one, more real stories about real people making impossible choices, subscribe. I'll be here, bringing you the stories that matter. Thank you.